Really, I should have invested in an external hard drive back in December because we broke this fight down between Dhiego Lima and Belal Muhammad. Of course, it has been rebooked and rescheduled. And for both of these guys, they've had a tough run of opponents falling out. I mean, originally, Belal Muhammad's supposed to be taking on Sean Brady, then Dhiego Lima. For Dhiego Lima, he's had a couple fallout. He's supposed to take on Alex Morono back February of last year. Lima out of that one due to an injury. Then Muhammad, now Muhammad again. And if you look at both of these guys, Dhiego Lima has had a bit of a career resurgence in his last 3 fights. A big win over Chad Laprise in Canada. UFC 231, he knocks him out in the first round. Matt, honestly, I thought, holy smokes, like, who is this Dhiego Lima? Was that Douglas with a mask on? Then he takes on Court McGee, wins a split decision.
It's a fight that happened.
Then he beats Luke Jumeau by split decision, Matt. That was on the main card of one of the biggest cards that we've ever seen in our entire lifetimes. UFC 243, Whitaker versus Adesanya. And it's a split decision win over Luke Jumeau. And if you want to go see Salt, and it's a shame that I just put my Salt lamp down, look at Luke Jumeau's overall body of work. For Belal Muhammad, he's also on a 3-fight win streak. Wins over Curtis Millender, Bellator's, again, own Curtis Millender. A big win over Takashi Sato by third-round rear naked choke, which, honestly, I was pretty surprised that he was able to take him to the deep waters and get a big win like that. That feels like it was only yesterday. And then the win over Lyman Good, and they were booked to fight a little bit earlier in the year. We had to wait a couple of months to get it because, of course, the card was canceled due to the way of the world, but also an injury to Lyman Good. And then if you look at the fight that he did have against Lyman Good, Belal Muhammad put on one of those classic Belal Muhammad wet blanket fights where he really stymied the offense and the striking of Lyman Good. And if you know Cyborg Good for anything, it's power punches and shots in tight, and Belal Muhammad didn't let him do any of that and put on a really impressive performance. So for both of these guys, you know Belal Muhammad for the cardio, for the wrestling, for some weird striking, like he's kind of a bit of an unorthodox striker. And for Dhiego Lima, it's kind of like Douglas Light in a way. Like, I mean, he's an all-right striker. I don't even give him that
much credit.
I don't really love his takedown defense, but it should be a really interesting fight and one that we were expecting a couple of months ago.
So, it's really weird, and this is the case for Belal Muhammad. When you go on a win streak, normally your opponents keep on getting more difficult as you win fights, but you look at his recent string of wins. Okay, so he beat Curtis Millender, a guy who is a really good striker, but not really much of a grappler. So stylistically, it's a great fight for Belal Muhammad. So he beat him. Then he beat Takashi Sato, a really good fighter, great striker, really good power on the feet, but kind of a similar fighter to Curtis Millender. And then you fight Lyman Good. Wait, I'm sensing a theme here. Another guy who can knock you out, but also doesn't have much of a ground game. And now Dhiego Lima. I don't know if the UFC just has all these fighters in the same pool, and they're like, hey, who else can Belal Muhammad out wrestle? But Dhiego Lima is going to join that same group. Here's the thing. Dhiego Lima has fought 2 guys recently who fight kind of similar to a Belal Muhammad. Court McGee, yes, he's not really in his prime anymore, but he's a very good wrestle boxer. He's going to go out there, make it a very tough and grimy fight. And then Luke Jumeau, who I struggle to say nice things about. But Belal Muhammad is a perfect wrestle boxer, and I understand he's much more of a wrestler than he is a boxer, but you look at this recent string of success that Belal Muhammad's had, he just knows what he does well, and it's something that, again, I always bring it up when we talk about Ricky Simone. He's a great wrestler. Use your wrestling. Know what you do well. Sarah McMahon, you're a great wrestler. Just start wrestling all the time. Belal Muhammad figured out what he did well, and I think it did take a few fights for him to really learn that lesson. When you go back and you look at the losses of Belal Muhammad, it's his UFC debut against Alan Jouban, a phenomenal striker and a really good Muay Thai practitioner, a knockout loss to Vicente Luque. No shame in that. He's probably going to do the same thing to Tyron Woodley. And Jeff Neal, one of the best strikers in the UFC. The only guys who really make Belal Muhammad struggle are the elite of the elite Muay Thai practitioners, the guys who can defend that takedown and really make him pay for it on the feet. Dhiego Lima has the power, I would say, that some of those other fighters possess, but he doesn't have the technique of a guy like Jeff Neal. He doesn't have the technique of a guy like Luque or even of Alan Jouban, to be completely honest. I think Douglas Lima, if he does catch Belal Muhammad with his best shot, he could knock him out. Belal Muhammad, though, is going to out-wrestle Dhiego Lima, for an easy 15 minutes. I don't see this fight being very competitive, if I can be completely honest. I don't think Lima has the jiu-jitsu off of his back to really offer Belal Muhammad a lot of issues if it does end up getting down. And I've seen Dhiego Lima get taken down before by much worse wrestlers than Belal Muhammad. I think stylistically, this is just a very difficult fight for Dhiego Lima.
Well, when you talk about Belal Muhammad, and if you look at his overall body of work, again, let's pick out some of the wins so far in the UFC. So again, the loss to Alan Jouban. He beats Augusto Montano, no longer in the UFC. He beats Rude Boy Randy Brown, Jordan Meehan, Tim Meach, Chance Rencounter. Where do you think Dhiego Lima is amongst all of these fighters? Like, to me, Jordan Meehan on his best day,
Better.
all kinds of pressure, and he can wrestle, and he really mixes it up well. Randy Brown, same thing. I mean, I know we talked about it. Randy Brown, when he was picking up submission wins, all of a sudden, Randy Brown, he was a plus 1050 to submit Warley Alves, and he gets the submission there. Randy Brown's well-rounded, and he's got a big fight coming up. Chance Rencounter, well-rounded? Not great, but well-rounded.
That was short notice.
Millender, good striker. Takashi Sato, good striker. Lyman, good striker. Decent defensive wrestling, and he really wasn't able to put it in there. Now, Lyman good in that fight. There were some extenuating circumstances around it. His father just passed away. He was pretty emotional. Like, you hate to see it. For Dhiego Lima in the UFC, loses to Truck Gordon, beats Jorge de Oliveira, loses to Tim Means, loses to Li Jingliang, loses to Jesse Taylor, loses to Yusuf Nakami. And for Dhiego Lima, there's two different stints there too, because again, he left the UFC, picked up 2 wins in Titan, and they're good wins. Antonio Tricoli, big win. Good one. I like that. Main event. Then he wins the vacant welterweight championship against David Machad. Listen, you might say, oh, David Machad, his UFC career didn't go all that well. I don't care. Pretty good in PFL, pretty good everywhere else, good with Bellator. David Machad's a big win.
What happened next, though?
He lost to Jason Jackson. Now, I'm probably the conductor of the Jason Jackson hype train.
Yeah.
I considered him as one of the fighters of the year or a possible male fighter of the year for last year. He was an honorable mention. He beat the brakes off of Benson Henderson. But you lose to Jason Jackson, well, that's going to happen. Then he goes on tough, which is weird that you go to tough off a loss.
It was the
against
redemption
a former tough
season.
guy. Redemption, beats Hyder Hassan, beats Gilbert Smith, beats Tom Galecchio, loses to Jesse Taylor in the finale. Jesse Taylor, where you at? Loses to Yushin Okami. And again, we see what happens with Dhiego Lima. You look at the defensive stats, all right, they're not terrible. He takes down Luke Jumo. He got taken down by Yushin Okami, taken down by Jesse Taylor. I don't really love your assessment of his takedown defense. I said it wasn't great. It's 66%. That's not terrible.
I've seen fighters like Belal Muhammad beat Dhiego Lima in the past. Like, Jesse Taylor does exactly what Belal Muhammad does. He's just way older and way shorter and can't pass a drug test. Belal Muhammad, on the other hand, I know what I'm going to get from him. And that's just the great thing about Belal Muhammad. Like, he's never going to switch things up and, look like a different fighter. He's always going to go out there, use his cardio as a big asset, and use his wrestling. And he's never going to switch it up too much. Will he improve? Yes, he will. And the thing that I do like too, he's incorporating jiu-jitsu a lot more into his game. It's not just, I'm going for the takedown, I'll kind of ground and pound, I'll win rounds. He's looking for the finish a lot more. And listen, I thought he was going to be able to finish Lyman good. He wasn't able to. It was still a very impressive performance. But the Belal Muhammad who beat Takashi Sato can beat a lot of guys at 170. He just didn't get tired, looked to be one of the better wrestlers in the division, and just his overall grappling package just looked phenomenal. I have a really hard time believing the fighter who has been on this streak is going to lose to Dhiego Lima.
So we look at this fight, Matt, in terms of the odds. We don't have a lot of sites out there that have it. There's about 3 of them so far. There's been 2 added since I wrote up my breakdown. Minus 350, minus 325, minus 314 for Dhiego Lima, plus 250, plus 261, plus 285. There's no props on this one. I'm probably not going to put anything on just like a money line on this fight because, again, Muhammad's a big favorite. If you look over on Topology, unsurprisingly, 91% of 444 votes have Muhammad to win, 82% by decision. For me, yeah, I might look at the over-under on a round here. I'm going with Belal Muhammad. We set up the case. For Dhiego Lima, I think maybe a better opportunity to get a finish. Maybe he's able to crack him with an uppercut coming in.
That's his only chance. Let's be honest. Dhiego Lima's not winning a decision against Belal Muhammad.
I don't think he will. So I'm going to go with Belal Muhammad in this one. But overall, it should be an interesting fight.
Finally give Belal Muhammad someone good. Like, he's starting to fall into that Benil Dariush kind of divot where it's like, okay, we can only give you so many killers who don't have a number next to their name before we do have to start putting a little bit of respect on you. So if Belal Muhammad is able to get this win, which we'll predict he will, hopefully they do match him up with one of those kind of borderline top 15 guys.
Matt, hopefully they remember the name. We're both going with Belal Muhammad to get the win. And overall, I'm really excited about this card. There's a lot of fights that will probably fall under the radar and people are going to be upset about having to pay for some of these. But Munhoz Rivera too, that's a good one. Gastelum Heinisch, your co-main event. Barber taking on Grasso, that's a flyweight. What would you call it? Showcase, I guess.
It's
and
a
then
fight.
you have Kamaru Usman taking on Gilbert Burns in the main event for the title. So keep locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. As we always say, let's get into it.